Hello, everybody, and welcome back to yet another artistic installment of the Cup Duet Reviews, brought to you by Cup of Hemlock Theatre. I'm your co-artistic producer, Mackenzie, and I am joined once again by the wonderful associate artistic producer, Ms. Jillian Robinson. Hello, Jill.
Hello, Mac. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Jill, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about Red. This is a production by Riot King in association with Tipping Hand Media, happening right now at the Theatre Center in Toronto.
Very good, very good, very good. And Jill, what is in your cup today? Is your ensemble anything themed and special?
So my ensemble really wasn't quite planned, to be honest. Today, I kind of came right out of a spin cycle class. We went to the wonderful opening night. There was obviously the networky post-show chats with theater folks, and I zipped back to record this. So I just threw on whatever was on my vanity, which happened to be a black tank top and a black cardigan, but there is a lot of references to the color black, and especially in comparison or contrast to the color red in this piece. So I feel like that's a little bit fitting. And I did say I was doing spin cycle classes. That is sort of my 2025 workout pattern of choice. It's been going really well for me. I realize I haven't done one of these episodes in a long time, so catching folks up with that. I just got water. We've got our water bottle. I think this is the fourth one I've drank today. So we're staying hydrated. Yeah, staying hydrated. And this time of year, I find staying hydrated is super important too as the seasons change and the pressures of everything else are going on. So water is my choice. How about you, Mac? Ensemble, beverage? What do you got going on?
I'm drinking some tea from the Cup, and I am also drinking some Crystal Light that is red in hue.
Yes.
But I am wearing my blacks, but there is also red in my garnet ring as well. So there you go. So there's some black and reds. Red the color of angry men, black the dark of ages past. All that good stuff. There, but yeah, no, we're talking about a play we've already done a deep dive discussion on with Ryan.
Yep.
And I believe it was Max and Andrew. Was he?
Might have been Andrew. It's been a while since I've gone back to that panel. So yeah.
Yes. I remember that one is where the joke originated that Ryan didn't like running water on stage, even though if you actually watch the episode, he does like the running water.
Yeah.
So that was a joke that got brought up in that episode that just keeps coming back time and time again. But yeah, no, we were talking about the play Red, which is by playwright John Logan, and there's a pro shot of it with Alfred Molina and Alfred Enoch from Harry Potter and How to Get Away with Murder. But this time around, the cast is Lindsay Merrithew and Brendan Kinnon.
Yeah, Brendan Kinnon.
Brendan Kinnon, perfect. So let's just kind of start there. Jill, were you familiar with this play? And kind of what you think of this interpretation? Did you ever watch the Alfred Molina pro shot?
Yeah, so I saw the pro shot. I listened to our episode, and we actually read this play when we did some like COVID play reading Zoom vibes back in the depths of isolation days. So it was really lovely to see a local company take this on. This piece, in my opinion, is a timeless one. I think there's just so much. I mean, you've got two bare bone artists on stage. So they're talking about the strokes of things, but it's life in a nutshell. It's depth, it's layers that really can relate to any moment, any time, any era, in my opinion. So that's what I feel like is kind of a neat sort of playground element about this piece. So it was really lovely to see. I've actually seen Brendan act in other things around the city. So it was lovely to see them kind of take on the role of Ken here. And I've seen quite a few pieces in this theater center incubator, and this iteration had it in proscenium style, which sometimes, if Toronto viewing folks know, the incubator space can be done in the round. It can be done as thrust, but this was proscenium.
It's a very cool theater space. I've never been in it before, but I was like, the sunken floor. I was like, oh, this is really cool.
Yeah. And it's just so funny, Mac, that you haven't been to a piece, because we definitely have covered quite a few for Yep, it just happened to be this was your first
Mhm.
one. But I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, just I guess general appraisals, I'll kind of put my vibe
Mhm.
out there for that here is I think it was a wonderful use of the space.
Mhm.
Set dressing and what have you, we'll get into post spoiler.
Mhm.
I thought was spot on. The performances by Lindsay and Brendan. I mean, to be honest, I feel like Dora's Lookout. I feel like there might be nominations here and
For
there.
sure nominations.
This piece is also just a wonderful sort of deep dive for
Mhm.
actors. I think there's a lot of language, there's a
Mhm.
lot of, like I said, layers and subtext, and the deep depths of humanity have to be sort of cracked open and discovered in this piece. So I thought the two of them did a wonderful job of taking us on that journey.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so thoroughly enjoyed this production in this iteration. And like I said, to see it done in an at home space and by an indie company and here in Toronto was a privilege. How about you, Mac? What did you think?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so for people who don't know what this play's about,
Hmm.
long story short, this is all about Mark Rothko, American abstract painter, set in the late 50s, early 60s, because he starts this commission in 58, and by the end of the play, it's 1960 when he ultimately breaks away from this commission for doing the Seeker murals for the Four Seasons restaurant in New York. And so that's kind of what he's done. And Brendan's character, Ken, plays his new assistant, studio assistant. And basically, it's about them arguing all sorts of topics from generational change to certain artists that they're both familiar with and the impact they have, and just about life in general. It's a really, as you said, a meaty actors piece. Like this definitely I always think about it from would my parents enjoy this play?
Right.
I think part of them would, just from the performances that we got to see here tonight.
Hmm.
But I definitely think some of the deeper conversations that are being talked about would definitely kind of get my parents doing the
Sure.
who, what. I mean, they're not artists. Like, yes, they know who, Jackson Pollock is in general. Van Gogh, they know who that is, obviously. What's the name? The soup can one.
Warhol. I do.
Warhol. Like, obviously, they know Warhol in general, but they don't know all this inner detail, dynamic history of, how Cubism led to abstract painting and then that led to, Warhol and his stuff and like the changeovers of time. Like there's a lot of inside baseball stuff here. It's kind of like Sunday in the Park with George, where
Mhm.
it's like you got to be kind of in the know to really appreciate the depth that John Logan brought to this piece. But I would say our two leads, Lindsay and Brendan, did such a great job pulling this piece together, creating such a fractious, dynamic presence in this space. It really was like watching a great tennis match between these two, volleying at each other at all times. It was really, really
Yep.
well done. And obviously, we'll get a little bit more into their dynamic post spoiler shield.
Hmm.
But before we head into the post spoiler shield, I think we also do have to give a shout out to our set designer and director, uh,
Yes.
Kenzia Dalie.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, so Kenzia did once again. This is a great theater space, a great use of this space to create this kind of artist studio playing field. The fact that it was in the sunken floor, almost like a tennis court, where you had this big wide open space where you could really volley at each other, I thought was a really good use of it. Like they always had a really great way, and also it was also a bit like boxers. Like you had to enter from up in the back through the doors, and then they had to walk down into this pit. As if you're walking into the boxing ring, knowing you're probably going to end up having to duke it out a bit with
Yeah.
each other. So I just thought it was a really well. There's a few other elements of the production I want to save for post spoiler land, but I would just say overall this was a terrific production and also unique in its own right. Like both Lindsay and Brendan didn't let the pro shot really influence their performances.
Yeah.
Lindsay was very much his own Rothko. I didn't feel like he was trying to impersonate Alfred Molina, who's very
Mhm.
iconic in this performance. I think he won the Tony and the Olivier for it. So like
Mm,
he's
wow. Yeah.
so like very lauded in his interpretation of Rothko. So like Lindsay, I thought did a very good job taking on this very iconic role, and then Brendan taking on this kind of everyman Ken character,
Yeah.
making it his own. Because I mean, this started with Eddie Redmayne, then was Alfred Enoch.
Yeah.
So like, there's been a few different iterations of the kind of the younger generation everyman
Yeah.
character. So yeah, overall, I thought it was a terrifically well done production. It's running
Great.
till April 20th. It runs from March 28th, so tonight, to April the 6th, so next Sunday. So
Right.
relatively shorter run, but if you can get out and see it, highly recommend it. I mean, tickets are relatively not overly expensive. They're 25, 35, 50. So
Great. Yeah.
pretty decently priced tickets for what you're going to get. It's a really good, solid production. But on that note, Jill, you got anything else to add before we open up our spoiler can of red paint?
I don't think so. Just kind of reiterating what you just said, Mac, if you can fit it into your schedule and your budget, absolutely run to see this play. Cause I think it is, yeah, a very, just to kind of pick up on what you're saying too, like I think both Lindsay and Brendan, if they were themselves in this in these characters, which I can feel like with a piece like this, you can fall into mimicking past productions or, you know, really lean into the sort of bog standard, like this is Rothko, it is the 50s. And I feel like both of them didn't. And I kind of liked that because
Yeah.
it made the theme, like I said, and made what we were chatting about even more universal and sort of like timeless in a way, which again, we can unpack more post spoiler. But yeah, just even folks who have been exposed to this play in the past, this particular iteration, treat yourself to go see it for sure.
Love that. Love that. Well, Jill, on that note, what do you say, we crack open the can of red paint there, splatter some spoiler warnings around, and, let's kind of get to painting a canvas and kind of get some spoilery details. And I think that's the scene I want to start with is that canvas painting scene, because that's where I really felt the piece take off.
Yeah.
Like the first two scenes are nice. They're dynamic, but they didn't have the pace that really came after that moment. Like it felt like Lindsay and Brendan really hit their stride, painting that canvas.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They painted the canvas and then they were off to the races, and the play never let up after that. Like I would say, particularly the scene leading up to that canvas painting moment was a bit of a, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. The pace was really low in that scene.
But I think in a
But
way,
it was supposed to be. Like, it was supposed to be. It was a sentimental, because they're talking about artists that they know. Like, it's meant to be a bit of a calmer scene.
And it's still like a getting to know you, like they're kind of dancing around each other's space. But I agree, when they share that moment of painting that white canvas red, and it's so vivacious and quickened, and it really, it was like fire. Like there was fire under the piece. Yeah.
Yes.
Dramaturgically perfect. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that was exactly like, once that happened, it took off. And every scene after that was just ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. Like it was going hard and fast and never let up. It was really well done. Really, really well done there. And there's no of the production I want to shout out that I don't know who we attribute this to, maybe Kenzia, but it was the fact that they used every sense available to you, minus touch, because touch is the hardest one. You obviously can have everybody touching things, but they set the space and time with the music. Space was a feast for the eyes, but the one that a lot of productions don't do, that this one did, was smell. The smell of the cigarettes.
Yes.
Like that, like everybody has people in their family who smoke. I don't know. It's a good number chance that you're going to know somebody in your life who smokes, and there is that smell of the cigarette that just that mix them with that smell of the painting.
So in the paint, Mac, I remember leaning over to you and being like, it smells like laundry detergent.
It did smell like laundry detergent.
I'm actually wondering, maybe like someone who's listening on the production side of things, let us know if they, for like a cleanup sort of game plan.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's water based.
Yeah, if they mix detergent with that paint, but to smell that sort of fresh laundry detergent scent during that swathing the red paint on the canvas together, it really was like a fresh, like it just felt right. Like, and you're right, with the drag on of the cigarettes and creating that sort of artiste sort of environment of the smoked hues, as we're unpacking all of the different, XYZs of colors. It just, you're right.
Mhm.
It definitely added to the ambiance.
Yes. Yeah, no, I loved it. Like that was just such a unique element that I think more productions need to do. Like that's one of
Yeah.
the joys of live theater is this like is the fact that you can get so much out of all the senses. And I mean the fact that like my sister for her wedding has created a signature scent that
Oh,
will be
that's
used
fun.
at the wedding. Like
Wow.
yeah, and that's something her and my dad got to go do together. That was a thing they did separate. But that was something she wanted. Like she wanted like and hotels do it now. Like a lot of places you walk into will give a signature scent
Yeah, that's
because
great.
smell is one of the strongest sense memories
Oh, yeah.
around, and smelling cigarettes really does take you to a certain time and place combined with the music
Yep.
and everything. Like it just worked
Yeah.
so well.
And I think on that note too, Mac, I'll
Mhm.
pick up the baton there and go
Yeah.
back to the set dressing aspect of this.
Hmm.
And as someone I've seen so many different plays in this incubator space at the theater center, Kenzia used every single morsel of that space to represent the gymnasium studio that Rothko was renting out, like to the point where even the canvases and the swaths of fabric and the cans
Hmm.
and the paintbrushes were stretched out as far as to the walls of the theater
Hmm.
center itself. So
Hmm.
quite literally, like you were in the space with them. And even so much so when the stage door exits of the very back space
Hmm.
and stage left, when those doors opened, you saw the backspace, you saw like a laundry and dryer and
Yeah.
like a
Ladders.
maker. And then the other one you saw a ladder. And that to me was like, I would absolutely believe that this is like a community center or a gymnasium where those are
Hmm.
just installments of that building. And so,
Hmm.
not only did she expand to the realness of the space, but then the specificity of, you know, even the sort of mess shelf that Rothko has.
Hmm.
Like every jar,
Hmm.
every can, every tin, every paintbrush. Obviously, it was just there to create that environment, but it
Hmm.
just was perfect. And just to see Lindsay and Brendan interact so flawlessly with
Yeah.
that space. And I feel like in a piece where there is a lot of
Hmm.
depth, there is a lot of unpacking of the human experience, let alone the artist experience.
Hmm.
It's sort of important that your environment is structurally on
Hmm.
point and, you know, boisterous enough to support all of that depth,
Yeah.
right? So I feel like
Absolutely.
just hats off to Kenzia because there was not a single thing on that set that was not there on purpose. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then I think it allows the text and the frustrations of
Hmm.
Rothko and Ken of trying to figure out these paintings and trying
Hmm.
to, it's just there's the stability of the set dressing that is
Hmm.
there. And then it allows the
Hmm.
audience to figure out with the characters.
Hmm.
Because I've seen a lot of productions, right, where sometimes it's like, okay, this is a great set. Or I will be like, oh, like, okay, it's great, but what are you using that for? Why is that
Yeah.
there? And then my attention is distracted from what the piece is doing as a whole because I'm perseverating on what, just trying to justify why is that there. And I just feel like, yeah, and for lack of a better word, she created a wonderful canvas for these
Yeah.
characters to dig deeper in. So what do
Yeah.
you think, Mac? Do you have anything to add about this set? Because that is really paramount
Uh,
piece.
no, not really. I mean, once again, I just think I just loved how lived that space was. Like they really brought a homey, lived, real element. Like I've had those wooden shelves that are in the back where all their stuff was on. Well, I
Yeah.
still have those shelves in my parents' garage. Those,
Yeah.
like, I know that I know those shelves. Like like I just loved how lived and real that space was. I just thought that was perfect.
One tiny element that there was a moment of, oh, I don't know if I would have left it at that. But
Hmm.
then again, I justified it in my brain. So I'll just like share. It's
Hmm.
when the first time that Rothko is mixing the paint and Ken offers red. And then the powder of the red mix gets splayed on the stage.
Yeah, it gets left on stage.
And then Ken goes to grab a dustpan to start to clean it up, but then
Hmm.
leaves. And there was a part of me that was like, okay, you wiped up the water and you started getting the dust away, but then you just kind of left it. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't know if I want your character to fully clean that up. But then as it went on and you had both of them just nonchalantly trudging through making footprints on that red dust, it like added like a left there element.
I loved it because it was like the first slash of blood.
Yes.
Basically, it's their first fight. It's
First
that first
argument.
cut.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that first cut, and you spurted the blood on the ground, and now it's stained. It's
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
It's basically the war zone has been tarnished now. Like,
Yeah.
it's okay. Here we are. We're in it now.
And I feel like I even extending this sort of unpacking, justifying why everything there, extending that to the costume choices. Like I
Mhm.
love, again, speaking of lived in and whatever, I loved the like just subtle stains of paint that you'd see on both characters' pants here and there,
Mhm.
or the sort of yinging, like going back and forth of being all dressed prim and proper. What does that look like on your character? And then what does it look like when you are just in the roots as the artist? Like, and seeing that contrast of
Mhm.
costuming with this particular production was really nice. And this is so specific, but Rothko's final shirt combo of just the white tank top with the white
Yeah.
button-up, and we've now heard the whole sort of traumatic pairing of the color white that Ken has, and
Mhm.
we've sort of seen Rothko break down, and one of the first, symbols that Ken says white reminds him of bones. And so it's this very, this like blank canvas, bare
Mhm.
bones
Mhm.
installment we get. Even I'll go as far as say is like Rothko is the cigarette. Like
Yeah.
Rothko is the blowing smoke everywhere, and I don't know. I just felt like there was a lot of this piece, especially watching this piece as an artist, this piece encourages your brain to constantly unpack everything you're
Yeah.
hearing and seeing. And so I think this production, like you said, Mac, when you're talking about the stage dressing being a feast for the eyes,
Mhm.
this production gives a lot for audience members to chew on, especially if you're like an artist audience member or like a theater watcher too.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So just to dive a bit more into our two actors
Yeah.
for the night, there's just some more comments I want to give now that we're post spoiler shield. Like, I would say, controversially, I actually like Lindsay's interpretation of Mark Rothko more than Alfred Molina.
Nice.
So, Lindsay, bravo to you on that one. Like, I
Yeah.
really liked how, because Alfred Molina's Rothko always comes across as just a grump, like just nothing like endears him to you. And I think that's the point. Like, you're not supposed to be overly endeared to this man. But Lindsay found heart in his
Yep.
Rothko. Like, he felt like your curmudgeonly
Absolutely.
uncle that you kind of put up with
Mhm.
begrudgingly, but you do it because he does have wisdom to impart to you, and you want to stick around and learn. So, and Ken is like, well, why am I fired? Like, he's found a safe space in this kind of curmudgeonly man studio
Yeah.
that most people will go, get me the hell out of here. Like, this guy just is cantankerous. He's bitchy. He's, lectures you all day. And, Ken has this whole list of things that they, like, 2 weeks
Yeah.
of not painting, and you're just kind of there, and you're just kind of listening to him study a canvas. But it's like, there is truth in him. There is humanity in him, and the fact
And
that he is not picking up on the fact that he is the cubist. He is now the cubist, getting stomped out, and is
yeah.
missing that entirely. But like, there's heart to him. Like there is legitimate heart in that relationship. Like him watching Ken talk about his parents, which I totally forgot that plot point, that Ken's parents were murdered, like Batman. And it's like the heart of that moment where you see him studying Ken, but also having heart and sympathy for Ken.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I think it goes back to what I was saying of hats off to both of these
Mhm.
actors for not only letting the text live in their makeup, in their DNA, but also in today's day and age. I
Mhm.
think Lindsay, there's a lot of deep frustrated, knowing you're right in your own brain, but
Mhm.
needing to come to the face the music, if you will, of not everyone is going to see that, not everyone is going to feel that, not everyone
Mhm.
would just feel like there's a lot of even like I want to say one liners, but they're more like one paragraphers where
Yeah.
watching this show right now in 2025 with whatever climate you want to place on it, whether it be
Mhm.
personal, post pandemic y, political, what have you, there is some
Mhm.
weight to Rothko's lines in here.
Yeah.
And, it's not just two artists talking about a color palette. It's like unpacking depth of humanity and being so frustrated for, having to
Mhm.
prove your opinion, having to make sure that the work you're doing and the vulnerability that you're sharing in the world
Mhm.
is worthy, is taken
Mhm.
care of, and your voice being, and then in Ken's shoes too, like
Mhm.
hearing and listening, but also
Mhm.
sharing and conversing. And I just
Mhm.
feel like, again,
Mhm.
the climates that we're in right now, like I
Mhm.
got teary in a lot of the moments because I really do think these
Mhm.
actors layered a little bit of that in here. And I love when pieces do that, even when you
Mhm.
are, showcasing an artist who actually existed.
Mhm.
You are absolutely doing due diligence to why this, why now. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
because that always pops in my brain, right? Of you know, usually companies have a specific personal attachment or reason why they're doing a piece. But sometimes
Yeah.
it's like, oh, we just happen to get the rights to this piece.
Mhm.
Let's put it on. Either is acceptable, but my whole thing is you've got to, as the team and as the individual,
Mhm.
really ask yourself that question, especially now in today's day and age of
Mhm.
why now? What can we
Mhm.
pull in this and splatter on the canvas
Mhm.
to ratchet the wonderful themes and iterances that are already present in this piece, but how do we do it or use it as a vehicle for people to, marinate on today in 2025?
Mhm.
And both actors did this so well, but I just know like Rothko, especially being the like has seen a lot of shit, sort of like wisdom, lived the years, frustration. It was very relatable in a lot of
Mhm.
different realms. So
Yeah. And I also think, just to double onto that, conversely, I thought Brendan's Ken did such a good job of not coming across as whiny in that big final argument they have, because nowadays, Jill, I don't know, maybe, I mean, you're a few years behind me, but nowadays, the amount of times, you know, me as an old man in his 30s now, but it's the whole thing of these younger generations doing the validate me, appreciate me, I want it now. Like, I'm fresh out of school, but god damn it, pay me that high salary, that type of see me energy.
Mhm.
Ken's character does have a bit of that. With like I've worked with you for 2 years, you don't know anything about me, you never asked to see my art. And Rothko's point is direct. He goes, this is a job. I'm not here to be your dad. Like, you're here to show up, do your job, and go home. Like, that's it. Yes, we can have personal conversations and kind of, a little bit of get to know you a bit, but like, there is a line. This is a job. This is not meant to be kumbaya,
Yeah.
hold your hand. And I thought the way Brendan took that in and then had valid arguments about, no, no, like, we're making art. This is a very personal dynamic we are working in this art. We're not doing, Joe Schmo in the office doing sales.
Yeah.
Like, he did. Like, I thought Brendan's Cambridge was so balanced in the
Yeah.
way that he brought these arguments that were valid, but not whiny about it. Where this character can stray so close into the realm of whiny. So, I mean, overall, like, I just want to give a shout out to Brendan for that
Yeah.
depth that he brought to that character, because that is such an easy trap for this character to follow. It is the whiny, pity me, my parents
Yeah.
died, give me validation, Rothko, you know. Give me
And
what I want, but he didn't. He actually had held his own and was able to create a three-dimensional character.
yes, and to pick up on that, I feel like this production did a very nuanced representation of both these characters. Like, I
Hmm.
feel like in past productions, it almost seems very like archetype of
Hmm.
like you said, like the young, whiny up and comer, and then you have like the crotchety, I've seen some things characters. And I felt like
Hmm.
there was a wonderful softness that both of these actors brought to their characters. Like, I could actually feel and endow them and believe them wanting to, like, listening mostly all the time, but even when they didn't weren't on the same page, they wanted
Hmm.
to listen. They wanted to sort of like understand. And I think again, that sort of softness and that sort of
Hmm.
like dancing around a shared vulnerability is a something that is we're all experiencing that right now,
Hmm.
post pandemic world, and how to do those interactions again, and how to do those interactions when there's so many other tensions and pressures happening right now. And I just feel like, yeah, that in a nutshell, there was a soft, more three-dimensional swing on these characters with this
Hmm.
production. And I really appreciate that, because
Hmm.
then you are going farther and farther away from the sort of like first iterations of this piece, or like the
Yeah.
bog standard representations, and you're expanding it out even more. And we've already talked about so many elements of this
Hmm.
piece is all about expanding. Wow.
Yeah.
Write an essay on this production.
You really could. Yeah, you really could. But yeah, I mean, also just one last shout out, somebody we haven't shouted yet, but who should get a shout out is Ian Harper for being the abstract painter who recreated the Rothko
Yeah.
paintings of the piece. I just want to give a shout out to Ian there. You actually can purchase the paintings
Hmm.
as well, which is a neat aspect of the show. But I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Ian for their contributions as well. But
Absolutely.
Jill, do you got anything else to add before we put this canvas out to dry?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think, again, I guess just on that note of how they maneuvered those large canvas pieces so flawlessly
Yeah.
in the space.
Oh,
Yeah.
I loved the organic moment when Ken tripped on the stair and said
Yeah.
shit.
Like, no, he said Jesus Christ.
Oh, that was it, Jesus Christ. But just that organic moment of frustration, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's brilliant.
Oh, on this, like maneuvering the canvases, the big, large pieces throughout the
Hmm.
space, I thought that was fluidly done.
Hmm.
And again, it showed that camaraderie. It showed that
Hmm.
teamwork, trying to be on the same level.
Show the familiarity of the workspace that they were
Yeah.
able to navigate
Yes.
around it and know all the pitfalls
And
of where they
then
could
moving
trip.
it together, kind of
Yes.
working towards something together. But
Hmm.
on that note, too, I felt the transitions from scene to scene were really
Hmm.
well done as well. There
Yeah.
was almost like it would either be a hue of light,
Hmm.
or it's like a paused moment where
Hmm.
both characters kind of like breathed in their own space.
Yes.
And then we shimmied to very flawlessly to the next piece.
Yeah.
Almost kind of it to me, it felt like when you're taking in a room in an art gallery and you stay at one piece and then
Hmm.
you slowly saunter over to the next piece, and then you slowly saunter over to the next piece. Like, I felt dramaturgically through the transitions, like that was present for me. That sort of
Yeah.
lane of moving from one piece to the other. So we love amazing transitions. Thank you for those.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Awesome. Well, we will put the lid back on our spoiler paint can for the day. Once again, this is read by John Logan, running at the Theater Center, presented by Riot King, and it's running from March 28th through to April the 6th. Buy your tickets there. We'll link the website below as usual. And Jill, where can
Hmm.
people find follow you?
People can find and follow me at my artist Instagram account, Jillian.robinson96. I
Excellent.
post covers of songs. I post
Mhm.
what I'm up to these days, which is a lot of spin cycle, and audition season is sort of rounding out, but we're
Mhm.
still clicking along with self tapes and
Beautiful.
in-person vibes, which is great. So yeah, you can catch up with me there if you feel you would like to. And Mac, where can folks find and follow you?
People follow me at Mackenzie on all social media platforms. Follow my other antics over on Before the W Musical Podcast, where we're talking all about musicals. We just released 2 great episodes, an interview with local Canadian actor Andrew Prashad, all about his one-man show called One Step at a Time, all about his journey with his son, who
Great.
suffers from spina bifida. It's a beautiful dance musical piece that he did. And we also just released our episode all about Lucky Step, which is a fun musical farce comedy by Aarons and Flaherty. So that's
Nice.
a fun bit there. So check that on out. But other than
Thank
that,
you.
everybody, until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, go paint a landscape, go enjoy some art, go out to your local art gallery.
Yes.
And yeah, until then, everybody, we will see you all in the next episode. April's going to be a busy month. We got a lot coming your way.
Yes. Yes, we do.
So there you
Cheers.
go. Cheers.